Hey there, it's Kari at StudioR12 Stencils, and today we are talking about the basics of base coating. This is the foundation for your project, and we have some tips to make it great. Okay, first things first, when it comes to base coating is prepping your surface. So today we are painting on MDF that we cut here at StudioR12 Stencils. We have a ton of shapes and sizes over on StudioR12.com. This is really smooth, so we are not going to need to prep it or seal it for that matter. But if you are using lumber, pine, anything that you get that's a random surface, you might want to think about sanding before you start painting, just so that you can get your surface prepped and ready to go and get the paint to hold onto your surface. If you are painting for outdoors and you want to protect it for the weather elements, then you can use a multi-purpose sealer to also put down before you do your paint. But for indoor projects, we don't typically do that. We just go right to our surface and get going. So the tools that we're going to use today, a piece of reusable palette paper, which you can get on StudioR12.com. It is a piece of Mylar that is just a scrap, and we have found that it works wonderful. We're also using acrylic paint. We will put a link to our paint color guide so you can see the colors that we use and where we get our paint from. And then our applicators. The one we like the most is the poly foam brush, and I'll show you why in a second. You can also use a roller for your projects, and then it's always nice to have a ink sweeper for your projects if you would decide to do your edges. So let's get into it. Going to shake up our paint really well. We are using acrylic paint. We always recommend using not the cheapest brand that you can find. And we are using our polyfoam brush, which you can get on our website. So you can grab these from several different places. However, we want to show you why ours is different than most others. So we have deconstructed this one. And you can see here that this has the wood to here, and then it has plastic that actually goes all the way to the top of the sponge. A lot of sponges that you will get at the discount stores or that sound really cheap, they will just end right here, and the top of your sponge will be really floppy and you won't have much control when you're base coating. So we are going to scoop up some paint on our polyfoam brush and just start going back and forth. You will want to go in the same direction when you are painting. So you will either want to go this way or this way, but not do both. We always start in the middle and then pull or push toward us. So let me tell you about the pull and push. The edges of this surface are black, and I want to keep them that way. I love to have the black edge around. It just makes it look really finished. So once I get close to my edge, I am going to pull toward me. If I push away, there's a chance that my brush is going to get stuck on the edge and leave a paint mess. So this can also be done when you are on the opposite edge. The opposite edge is where you would push away rather than pull. And you're probably going to have a preference of one that you like better than the other. I will typically come to my board and paint all the edges, get the middle done, and then flip my board around and pull toward it. So now we have our first coat down. It's a little splotchy, that's okay. It will even out as we add extra coats. So now you are either going to blow dry your project or go do some chores and let it dry before we come back to do our second coat. All right, how do we know if our project is dry? You are going to feel it. If it is sticky or if it is cool to the touch, that means your paint is not dry yet. When we are blow drying, we put it on high, we put it on heat, and we constantly move the blow dryer. And you will notice when we're doing these that we'll put our hand down and kind of feel it as we go along so that we can gauge how much longer we need to blow dry. I'm going to go ahead and paint my second coat. I am only going to use the polyfoam brush on this, but you can most certainly use a roller to paint your backgrounds. This is a smaller project, so I'm not going to use a roller on it. However, if you are painting in bulk, if you are going to be selling to a craft show or a vendor event, you will want a roller because base coating can take forever if you're painting multiple projects. We also recommend using a roller on really large projects, specifically porch signs. I will link a video and a playlist for you on how to use a roller on your projects. A lot of times we get asked, how many layers do I need to paint? That is going to be personal preference, but you can think about it as what your project is going to look like at the end. So if we are doing a rustic project, I might only do one base coat so it looks really old and washed out, and then you can sand over top of it. But if you're wanting to do something really bold and bright and something that's really gonna pop and look finished, then you'll want to do more base coats. We will do 3 or 4 for that, depending on the coverage as we get to that third layer. Now that our base coating is done, we have 3 layers. The white is really popping. We wanna give you a little pro tip. So let's feel this and listen. It looks good, it feels okay. However, if you want to make your project look like a pro project and feel like a pro project, because that's what happens when we buy things, right? We immediately feel them to see how they feel. Then you want to take a really light grit sandpaper to your project, and you're going to go in the same direction that you base coated. Just do some quick sanding back and forth. So let's take a listen. This is the side that I haven't sanded. And this is the side that I have sanded. The difference, I wish we had feel-o-vision so that you could feel the difference in how smooth this side is compared to a little bit of gritty on the right side. World of difference with just a little bit of sandpaper. So let's talk about what happens if 1, you make a mistake along the edges, or 2, if you just want to paint your edges. So our surfaces come with a black edge. There's maybe a teeny tiny bit of white that got over there. So I'm gonna get into my black paint, pour a little bit out on my palette. I'm not using a lot of black paint here, so I'm not going to pour out a lot. I'm going to go into my ink sweeper, which is a foam, and then it has a little place to put your fingers. I'm just going to add a little bit to the edge of the ink sweeper and dab off on my paper towel so I don't have a lot of paint. And then go right along the edge of my project to cover up, turn it this way so I can see it, cover up that white paint that got just along the edge. You may have to do a couple layers on this, just like you would do with your base coating. So if you buy a surface that does not have black edges and you want them to be black, this is what you are going to do. And you are just going to go along the edge and cover it up with your black paint. And then you might need to look and see while you're doing that, If you do get a little bit of paint that comes this way, you'll grab your foam brush again and just sweep that off. Just so there's no overlay. So now we have white on the top, black on the side, and you are good to go. So now that we are done painting, poly foam brush goes into our bucket of water. We like to use tiny buckets so that the brushes don't fall over and get sunk in. And then we're also going to put our ink sweeper in the water. I do have a little trick for you because if you just stick it in there, it's going to want to flip. You're gonna put a brush in the handle and then push it down, and then it will stay in the water. So now our base coat is complete and you are ready to stencil. If you like this video and want to see more tips on crafting, DIY, painting, and stenciling, be sure to subscribe to the StudioR12 YouTube channel and ring the bell so you get notifications anytime we're live or add new videos.